Mount Kailash is a place full of mysteries. In 2001, the Chinese government witnessed something extraordinary that led them to immediately ban climbing Mount Kailash.
Chinese monks are finally speaking about a strange truth hidden in the sacred Mount Kailash. This mysterious peak has stood untouched for centuries. It is revered by Hindus, Buddhists, Jains, and Bon followers, but now its secrets are erupting for all to see. Pilgrims feel its power. Tourists and travelers report unexplainable sensations, while monks hint at knowledge that goes beyond ordinary understanding. This sacred mountain is believed to hold strange forces of energy, lapses in time, and unexplained cosmic forces. If Chinese monks are finally speaking after a long silence, then what extraordinary truth lies at the heart of Mount Kailash? And why are we just finding out now? Join us as we unravel the ancient mystery of Mount Kailash and why it's so important. The Mountain of Mystery. Across the western plateau of Tibet, a single peak rises. Mount Kailash. It stands at 6,638 meters above sea level. Its dark rock faces are cut by near-vertical lines and capped with snow that settles into clean shapes. From certain angles, vertical ridges catch the sun like the edges of a monument. Streams of glacial water carve deep valleys around it, and wind whistles through narrow passes with strange resonance. From a distance, it looks like it was done by hand, engineered rather than eroded. The mountain appears almost deliberate in its placement. This helped form the first question of the Mystery Mountain. If this is only a natural peak, why does it look so precise? That's not the only mystery enshrouding the mountain. Travelers approaching the peak often report experiences that are both intriguing and weird. Compasses sometimes spin erratically, and electronic devices fail without warning. People also speak of sudden dizziness or strange fatigue. Cameras stop working in the cold, batteries drain faster than they should, and even GPS devices can give inconsistent readings in certain valleys. These unusual events have fascinated pilgrims and trekkers for decades, feeding a sense that Kailash is more than just a mountain. Visitors also describe sensations that border on the surreal. Some say that time feels different. A day can stretch endlessly, while the next seems to vanish in moments. Hair and nails are said to grow faster, and bodily perception shifts in ways that make you question your sanity. Hikers report vivid dreams, unusual clarity of thought, or sudden bursts of energy after long walks along the kora, the sacred circuit around the peak. Even the simplest actions like standing, breathing, and walking feel harder and heavier. Throughout history, these weird occurrences have been intertwined with spiritual meaning. Pilgrims and monks often interpret the mountain's odd behavior as a sign of its sacredness. Chinese and Tibetan monks studying the peak suggest that what visitors sense is a combination of environmental extremes, spiritual focus, and centuries of layered belief. The unusual events are simply a wake-up call to the mysteries untold. Whether these phenomena arise from the mountain itself or some other non-human force, Kailash maintains a reputation as a place where the ordinary rules of experience feel suspended. It makes you marvel and ponder, what hidden truths might it hold? You're about to find out. When facts and fiction meet. If you're high on the Tibetan plateau, the first thing you're likely to notice is that the air around Mount Kailash is thin, sharp, and dry. Like we said, pilgrims who arrive after long journeys often speak of unusual sensations. Some describe time loops and skips. Others say their bodies react in unexpected ways. If the mountain carries an unseen force, then the first place it would reveal itself is in the human body. Then the question pops up, if people feel different here, why does that happen? The land surrounding Kailash sits at an elevation of roughly 4,500 meters above sea level, while the summit rises far higher. At this altitude, oxygen levels are significantly lower than at sea level. Medical research conducted in high mountain regions shows that the human body responds quickly to reduced oxygen. Breathing becomes faster, the heart works harder, sleep patterns change. Some individuals experience headaches, dizziness, or mild confusion. These effects are grouped under acute mountain sickness. They can appear within hours of arrival, especially if ascent up the ladder is rapid. The body is adjusting to an environment it was not designed to inhabit permanently. When pilgrims describe feeling lightheaded, or as though reality shifts slightly, altitude offers a scientific explanation. Oxygen fuels the brain. A small drop in oxygen saturation can influence perception and mood. Time may seem to pass differently when the body is under stress. Scientific studies of climbers in the Andes and the Himalayas show similar reports of altered awareness during acclimatization. The mind adapts to this new altitude, but it does so gradually. If visitors circle Kailash without sufficient time to adjust, their bodies react quickly. Cold is another problem. Temperatures around the mountain can fall well below freezing, even during pilgrimage season. Cold affects circulation and nerve sensitivity. Fingers and toes may feel numb. Batteries drain quickly in low temperatures because chemical reactions slow down. So, if a camera shuts off or a phone loses power, it may seem unusual, yet the explanation lies in physics, not a mystery. Manufacturers of electronic devices routinely test performance in temperature extremes, and reduced battery life in cold environments is a documented phenomenon. You can check it out just to be sure. As for the accounts of compasses behaving unpredictably, Western Tibet contains mineral-rich rock formed under intense geological pressure. Certain minerals, including magnetite, can influence localized magnetic readings. Geophysicists studying crustal formation note that magnetic variation occurs naturally in many mountain ranges. Surveyors account for this when mapping terrain. If a compass needle shifts slightly in one valley and steadies in another, that variation can reflect mineral concentration rather than concealed mechanisms. Magnetic mapping of the Tibetan Plateau aligns with known geological structures created by tectonic uplift. Smart so far, but can we explain the quick growth of hair and nails on the mountain? Yes, we can. Human biology does not support rapid changes in growth rates tied to geographic location alone. Hair and nail growth are influenced by nutrition, health, hormones, and genetics. Stress can alter perception of change. A person who spends days focusing inward during pilgrimage may become more aware of bodily details normally ignored. When attention sharpens, ordinary processes can appear amplified. Scientific literature on sensory awareness shows that environment and emotional intensity can heighten perception without altering physiology itself. Sleep disruption is common at high altitude. Research conducted by sleep scientists demonstrates that oxygen fluctuations during the night can lead to fragmented rest. Dreams may become vivid. People can wake frequently without realizing why. If someone feels that nights pass quickly or that dreams blend into waking hours, altitude-related sleep disturbance provides context. The sense that time behaves strangely often emerges when routine disappears. Pilgrims walking the kora around Kailash spend hours moving across stark terrain with little external distraction. The rhythm of footsteps replaces clocks. Without familiar markers, days can feel longer or shorter than expected. Sunlight intensity on the plateau is yet another factor. The thinner atmosphere filters less ultraviolet radiation. Bright light reflecting off snow can strain the eyes and swing moods. Long exposure to intense light, combined with physical exertion, can create fatigue that feels disproportionate. When the body is tired, perception narrows. Small changes in sensation may feel magnified. Environmental psychology research shows that extreme landscapes can heighten emotional response. A vast horizon and towering peak can produce awe, and awe itself alters the brain's sense of scale and time. If a measurable energy field existed beyond known geophysical patterns, scientific instruments would detect these strange happenings. Portable magnetometers, radiation counters, and GPS devices function in the region as they do elsewhere at similar altitudes. The gravitational pull at Kailash corresponds with its mass and elevation, following the same physical laws that govern all mountains. Satellite systems orbiting above Tibet operate according to established trajectories without deviation over this area. The 52-kilometer circuit around Kailash crosses mountain passes reaching over 5,600 meters. The Dolma La Pass, one of the highest points on the route, challenges even experienced trekkers. Climbing steep paths while breathing thin air demands endurance. When the body pushes close to its limits, the mind plays tricks. Endurance athletes often report altered awareness during prolonged exertion. This state is linked to adrenaline, endorphins, and changes in blood chemistry. It does not require a supernatural source. When stories of time distortion and energy fiction circulate, they often begin with real sensations felt in an extreme environment. The mountain stands isolated against a wide sky, and its air is thin. Each of these elements can influence the body and mind in measurable ways. Scientific research on altitude physiology, magnetism, sleep science, and environmental psychology prove this. Up next, did you know that Kailash Mountain is an unclimbed mountain? Let's find out more. The mountain. No one climbed, ever. Among the great peaks of Asia, Kailash stands apart not because it is the tallest, but because no climber has stood on its summit. Cool, right? Mount Kailash rises to 6,638 meters, lower than Mount Everest and several other Himalayan giants, yet its peak remains untouched. In a century defined by summit records and expedition triumphs, this absence draws attention. If mountaineers have reached the highest points on Earth, then why does this one remain unclimbed? The answer begins with faith and beliefs. Kailash is sacred to multiple religions that developed across South and Central Asia. In Hindu tradition, it is regarded as the earthly dwelling of Shiva, a central deity associated with creation and destruction. In Tibetan Buddhism, the mountain is linked to the cosmic Mount Meru, which is imagined as the spiritual axis of the universe. Jain texts describe it as the site where the first Tirthankara attained liberation. The indigenous Bon religion also honors it as a seat of spiritual power. When several faiths converge on one landscape, reverence deepens across cultures. Kailash holds not just one, but more than 3 religious beliefs. It is honored and spiritual to a number of Asians. Because of this layered sacred meaning, climbing the mountain is seen as a violation and not an achievement. Pilgrims do not aim for the summit. Instead, they walk a circuit around its base in a ritual known as kora. The route spans roughly 52 kilometers and crosses high passes that test endurance. Completing one circuit is believed to cleanse the soul of accumulated wrongdoing. Some pilgrims undertake multiple circuits. Others perform the entire journey through full-body prostrations, advancing slowly over weeks. The focus is humility, not conquest. Modern mountaineering reached the Himalayas in the 19th and 20th centuries, when European expeditions began surveying and climbing previously unscaled peaks. Many summits once considered unreachable were eventually climbed through careful planning and improved equipment. Kailash entered the awareness of explorers during this era, but formal climbing attempts never took place. Chinese authorities, who administer the Tibet Autonomous Region, enforce restrictions that prohibit climbing Kailash. These regulations align with appeals from religious leaders who have consistently requested protection of the mountain's sanctity. In the early 1980s, when China began reopening parts of Tibet to limited tourism, discussions emerged about whether Kailash might be included in mountaineering programs. International concern from Hindu and Buddhist communities led to firm decisions to keep the summit closed. Government policy reflects recognition that certain landscapes hold significance beyond recreation. In the late 20th century, reports circulated that a Spanish expedition had received preliminary permission to attempt the ascent. Strong protests from religious groups in India and elsewhere followed. The plan was abandoned. This episode reinforced the understanding that Kailash was different from other peaks. It was a mountain meant to be adored from a distance, not scaled. Geographically, Kailash presents climbing challenges. Its faces are steep, with exposed rock and snow-covered ridges shaped by erosion. Weather conditions can shift quickly on the plateau. Still, climbers trained for Himalayan expeditions possess the skills to navigate similar terrain. The mountain's elevation places it well below several peaks already climbed without supplemental oxygen. If technical feasibility alone determined access, Kailash would not remain untouched. The unclimbed summit contributes to its aura. In a world where satellite imagery maps nearly every contour and climbers document each ascent in detail, an untouched peak stands out. The reason for its untouched state lies in collective agreement. Religious doctrine does not frame the summit as a prize to capture. It represents a divine presence. Ascending it would symbolize intrusion into sacred space. Pilgrimage traditions surrounding Kailash reinforce this boundary. Devotees approach the mountain with ritual purity, often bathing in nearby lakes before beginning the circuit. They carry prayer flags, spin prayer wheels, and chant mantras while walking. The act of circling expresses devotion without disturbing the peak itself. Anthropologists studying sacred geography note that many cultures distinguish between inhabitable land and inviolable centers. Kailash functions as such a center. The decision to leave the summit unclimbed also reflects broader discussions about conservation and cultural heritage. Around the world, certain natural sites receive protection because of ecological fragility or spiritual importance. Governments restrict access to preserve both environment and meaning. In Tibet, where landscapes are intertwined with religious identity, this approach carries added weight. The absence of a climbing record does not signal danger beyond normal alpine risk. It signals consensus. Mountaineers who respect local tradition have supported the restriction. Some prominent climbers have publicly stated that not every mountain needs a flag at its top. In this case, restraint means respect, especially for millions who see the peak as more than stone. Fun fact: Mount Kailash is believed to stand in the Earth's very middle. Does that make it a place of intense mystery? Stick with us to find out. Center of the Earth. Before sunrise touches the upper ridges of Mount Kailash, pilgrims and worshippers begin moving across the cold ground. Some walk steadily with wooden staffs. Others lower themselves fully to the earth, stretch forward, rise, and repeat the motion again and again. The journey they undertake is not toward the summit, but around it. The path around Kailash is known as the kora. It measures roughly 52 kilometers and traces a loop that rises and falls across high plateau terrain. The starting point is usually near the small settlement of Darchen, which has grown in recent decades as pilgrimage and regulated tourism have increased. From there, the route moves westward along the valley carved by glacial meltwater. Snow peaks frame the distance. The mountain itself remains in view for much of the walk, its faces shifting in appearance as light changes through the day. Pilgrims come from different faith traditions, and each brings a distinct spiritual meaning to the same physical journey. In Hindu belief, circling Kailash honors Shiva, whose presence is associated with the peak. Completing one full circuit is said to cleanse the soul of a lifetime of wrongdoing. Sounds like paradise. In Tibetan Buddhism, the kora represents movement around the cosmic center. The act symbolizes the turning of the wheel of life and the path toward enlightenment. In Jain tradition, the region connects to the liberation of the first Tirthankara. The indigenous Bon religion, older than Tibetan Buddhism, also recognizes the mountain as sacred and prescribes ritual movement around it, though traditionally in the opposite direction. The physical demands of the kora are real. The route climbs to the Dolma La Pass, which rises above 5,600 meters. At that altitude, breathing becomes difficult. Each step requires effort. Snow can blanket the path even during pilgrimage season. Temperatures drop quickly when clouds gather. Medical research on high-altitude trekking shows that the body must work harder to deliver oxygen to muscles. Fatigue sets in earlier than it would at lower elevations. Pilgrims often complete the circuit over 3 days, allowing time for rest and adjustment. This takes more time if a full-body devotion is chosen. The standing, kneeling, prostrating, and rising could take weeks of discipline to accomplish. Anthropologists who study pilgrimage note that sacred journeys often combine hardship with intention. Physical challenge sharpens focus. When breath shortens and legs ache, distractions fall away. The environment around Kailash amplifies this effect. The environment is vast and convenient for deep prayer and meditation. Along the route, pilgrims pass prayer flags strung across rocks and wooden poles. These flags carry printed mantras that flutter in the wind. In Tibetan Buddhist belief, the movement of the fabric spreads blessings across the landscape. Small shrines mark significant points, especially near the high pass. Many leave offerings such as scarves or stones. The Dolma La Pass itself is associated with the Bodhisattva Tara in Buddhist tradition. Crossing it symbolizes spiritual rebirth. The descent from the pass feels like emerging into a new stage of awareness. Nearby lies Lake Manasaravar, another site of pilgrimage. Many visitors bathe in its waters before beginning the kora. In Hindu belief, the lake was formed in the mind of Brahma. In Buddhist cosmology, it sits near the sacred center of the world. The clear water reflects surrounding peaks, reinforcing the sense that earth and sky meet in this region. Scientific studies describe the lake as one of the highest freshwater bodies in the world, fed by glacial streams. Its clarity results from limited organic growth in the cold environment. Infrastructure around the pilgrimage route has developed carefully. Guest houses provide simple shelter. Medical checkpoints monitor health conditions during peak seasons. Chinese authorities regulate access through permits, partly to manage environmental impact and partly to maintain order. The number of visitors fluctuates depending on political conditions and border agreements, especially for pilgrims traveling from India and Nepal. Despite modern administration, the core ritual remains unchanged. The act of circling, rather than ascending, reflects a worldview in which the sacred center is not to be conquered. Religious scholars explain that circumambulation appears in many cultures. Moving clockwise around a holy object symbolizes alignment with cosmic order. In Bon practice, the direction traditionally reverses, reflecting distinct cosmological beliefs. So, if someone asks why thousands undertake such a demanding journey without attempting the summit, the answer lies in the meaning of the mountain and where it stands. The kora transforms the mountain into a partner in spiritual practice. Each step traces centuries of devotion. The circuit binds geography to belief. The peak remains untouched, yet its presence shapes every movement around it. The pilgrimage around Mount Kailash endures because it satisfies a deep religious impulse. The mountain does not need to be climbed to be approached. Walking its perimeter becomes the act of communion, aligning faith with the universe and adoring the center of the world. Here comes the moment we've all been waiting for. Stay tuned. When monks speak. Tibetan Buddhist monks interviewed by researchers studying sacred geography often describe Kailash as a physical reflection of Mount Meru, the cosmic mountain found in Buddhist cosmology. In reported conversations published in travel accounts and religious studies journals, monks have explained that when scriptures speak of the center of the universe, they refer to a spiritual center rather than a geographic coordinate. One senior monk from a monastery in the Ngari region told visiting scholars that people misunderstand sacred language when they read it literally. He explained in paraphrased remarks that the power of Kailash is not an energy field, but a reminder of the path toward enlightenment. He added that pilgrims change because they walk with intention, not because the mountain changes them through force. Chinese Buddhist monks who have visited the region under organized religious delegations have expressed similar views in state media interviews. In reported speech carried by cultural publications, they described Kailash as a symbol of harmony between humanity and nature. One monk stated that the mountain teaches humility because it cannot be conquered. He reportedly said that modern society often seeks to dominate landscapes, yet Kailash stands as a place where restraint is the highest respect. His comments framed the prohibition on climbing as an ethical decision rooted in reverence rather than fear. Scholars of Tibetan religion from institutions such as Columbia University and the University of Virginia have conducted fieldwork among monastic communities near Kailash. In academic publications, they report that monks emphasize karma, compassion, and impermanence when discussing the mountain. During interviews summarized in these studies, monks described the kora as a moving meditation. One lama explained that each step around the mountain represents turning the wheel of life toward awakening. He clarified that the sacredness lies in intention. Without intention, the mountain is stone. With intention, it becomes a teacher. There have also been interviews with Bon practitioners whose tradition predates Buddhism in Tibet. In ethnographic research published by specialists in Himalayan studies, Bon priests explained that Kailash, which they call Tisei, embodies ancient spiritual forces connected to the land. When asked whether the mountain hides physical mysteries, they responded in measured terms. They described its mystery as spiritual depth accumulated through centuries of prayer. One practitioner noted that outsiders often search for dramatic secrets, but the true secret is discipline of mind. Hindu ascetics who undertake pilgrimage to Kailash have also been interviewed by Indian media outlets. In reported speech, some sadhus have said that the mountain is the abode of Shiva, in a metaphysical sense. They clarified that Shiva's presence is not confined to rock, but expressed through consciousness. When asked directly whether the peak should be climbed, several religious leaders stated that ascent would violate its sanctity. They explained that divinity is approached through devotion, not physical conquest. Chinese authorities overseeing religious affairs in the Tibet Autonomous Region have publicly described Kailash as an important site of cultural heritage. Western journalists who traveled to the region and met monks in nearby monasteries often record similar impressions. In published travel narratives vetted by editors, reporters describe asking direct questions about rumors circulating abroad. The monks' responses are consistently calm. They explain that sacred texts use imagery. They point out that high altitude affects perception. They smile at the idea of alien machinery beneath the snow. Their reported remarks redirect attention toward meditation practice and ethical living. Religious studies experts analyzing these interviews note that sacred mountains across cultures function as symbolic centers. In Japan, monks speak of Mount Fuji in spiritual terms. In Greece, Mount Athos holds monastic communities that describe their home as holy ground. The pattern is not unique to Tibet. Sacred geography translates belief into landscape. When monks call Kailash the center of the world, they speak from a cosmological framework developed over centuries. If monks truly believed that Kailash concealed a physical anomaly, then such belief would appear in doctrinal texts or ritual instruction. Yet canonical Buddhist writings focus on suffering, compassion, and liberation. Bond scriptures speak of harmony with natural forces. Hindu texts describe divine presence in metaphorical language. None present Kailash as engineered or artificial. It is normal as it is sacred. During a cultural exchange event reported by Chinese news agencies, a Tibetan monk summarized the mountain's meaning in simple terms. His statement reflected a consistent thread across interviews: the rumored hidden chambers and time paradoxes. What did he say? Simply that people come with questions about secrets, but the only secret is the state of one's own mind. What can we make of all this in the end? Is it just beliefs? Or is there more to the mountain than meets even the eyes of its keepers? Keep watching for more on this video. Mount Kailash discovered. What if the true power of Mount Kailash isn't hidden inside its rock, or buried deep beneath its snow, but woven into the very fabric of the land, the water, and the stories that have grown around it for thousands of years? From the moment travelers reach the region, long before the first prayer flags flutter against the sky, there is an unmistakable sense that this mountain occupies a place unlike any other on Earth. It is neither simply a geological peak, nor just a pilgrimage destination. It is a crossroads where culture, nature, history, and spirit intersect in ways that continue to shape human experience across Asia and beyond. Many Asian religions explain the mountain differently. While various faiths describe these meanings in their own ways, all converge on the shared idea that this landscape is not random. It speaks to something larger than the sum of its parts. Rivers that sustain millions, like the Indus and Sutlej, begin not far from this high valley, and the interplay of water, sky, and snow creates a dramatic setting that feels almost designed for reflection. Some scholars point out that human cultures often assign deep meaning to places where water and mountains coincide, where life and transcendence appearing side by side. In the case of Kailash and Manasarovar, this combination has endured as a powerful symbol of connection between Earth and what lies beyond. Sounds a lot like religion, if you think about it. Beyond religious narrative, though, the mountain and its surroundings have been shaped by the forces of time, climate, and geology. The entire region is an ecological crossroads, where glaciers feed rivers that sustain life across much of South Asia. The retreat of glaciers due to climate change is now a major concern among scientists and environmental planners, because changes here can ripple outward to affect water supplies for millions. In recent decades, collaborations among China, India, and Nepal under initiatives like the Kailash Sacred Landscape Conservation Initiative have focused on balancing pilgrimage, acknowledging that this land is not only spiritually vital, but ecologically critical. What distinguishes Kailash from other sacred mountains, however, is this remarkable layering of meanings. Nature, religion, and human aspiration are woven together so tightly that none stands alone. A Hindu poet might speak of Shiva's eternal meditation here. A Buddhist may see the mountain's form as a symbol of enlightenment. A Bon follower will most likely trace the presence of ancient deities in its slopes. A Jain pilgrim could connect it with ultimate liberation. Each narrative speaks a different language, yet they all return to a shared recognition that this is a place where human beings look inward as much as they look upward. As stories circulate and interpretations multiply, it becomes clear that the truth people seek around Kailash is not hidden in secret chambers or mysterious devices. In fact, it lives in the dialogue between human hearts and the landscape that has inspired them for millennia. Scientists map its geology. Hydrologists measure its waters. Pilgrims walk its ancient paths, and monks interpret its meaning. None of these frames is complete without the others. In the convergence of faith and matter, Kailash remains one of the world's most compelling intersections of sacred meaning and earthly reality. At the end of a long day spent on the plateau, watching the sun retreat behind its stark faces, people, even those who came simply for the view, often find themselves asking the same question others have asked for centuries. What is it that draws people here again and again? The answer may not be a secret from a sci-fi novel, but it is a truth that emerges when people see not a mountain, but how man gives meaning to the wonders all around him. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.